I just do want to just confirm everything that's going on. All right, Matt says let's go. We're going on YouTube. All right, Matt, get us a link. We'll take a look at the chat because I'm sure we're gonna have some Raiders talk about. Yes, the Raiders. I'll lead this one up. I'll let you lead the Broncos.
All
The
right. No,
Raiders.
let me. I had a good opener for the Raiders. Okay.
Okay. All right.
The Raiders,
What if we
of
both
course,
did?
they start one way. They have 6 more years of the John Gruden experience, right? We have. Oh, I bet you it's going out on your Periscope and not my Periscope.
Oh, it went on like the deep dives Periscope, or no, it did go out on my Periscope. Yeah, why don't you retweet me? We'll have to see how YouTube's working. I'll have to just double, triple check that. But yeah, the Gruden era has been extended.
No, it hasn't been extended. It was.
I mean, it was.
Last year was year 3, right? And this is year 4. He had of his 10-year, $100 million deal. But really, the point I was going to make is, if you had the state the Raiders were in when they hired Gruden was not good, and if you had said the day that he was hired that by year 3 of the Gruden era, you'll at least be in contention for a playoff spot late in the season, and you're going to get eliminated in prime time. Most Raiders fans probably would have said, "I'll sign up for that. I'm good with that. Like I'll live with that." Year 3 of the Gruden era, we're in contention late in the season. Yeah, cool. But it was a little bit of a mirage. I didn't really think that what was positive about last year's Raiders team was sustainable. And I certainly don't like any of the moves that they made this offseason. And really, Gruden, you can point a lot of fingers at Gruden. Sure, he's not developing some of the young players well. Sure. But without a doubt, the issue is mostly the general manager, how they've drafted, what they're doing to build this team. And really, now that they, are kind of on the last year of a Derek Carr contract that was ugly when they walked into this, they inherited an ugly Derek Carr contract. And now they entered the last year of it, and they have done everything in their power, by what I can tell you, to handicap him such that he's not, that he is not given an opportunity to find success this year, at least the way I look at this way that this team is rostered. Do you think they feel that way, or what do you think the temperature is inside the building?
I don't know, man. It was a weird year. This is another one where I look back at it. I kind of had a feeling about it, and then I look back and I'm like, this is a goofy year too.
It was goofy,
and really looking back at what did Derek Carr do wrong besides the Atlanta game was horrific. Like, he had that was a nightmare game. I think you bet Atlanta there. That game was just complete one-way traffic. He was bad, but otherwise, just getting what he had, given what he had to work with, and really they kind of found a lucky break in that tight end. Really, getting Waller to off of like an unrestricted free agent. I'm not sure where it was. I believe he was a Raven, but that was just like an oopsie find. Other than that, we're gonna get to it. You can see it on the sidebar here. We have Gruden and Mayock. We want to talk about them extensively, but yeah, the 2020 season, just quick touch, they were reaping, and this is again why we're gonna be so negative on Mayock and probably a little on Gruden too. They were reaping the bennies of the Mack trade still. Yes. The Khalil Mack trade. They had two first round picks. They've had a decent war chest of picks. They just haven't converted any. And maybe we can shit on Mayock, but sometimes it's just bad luck. I mean, it could be bad luck. It could be bad drafting. It could be bad scouting. It could be.
When you're the only person in the universe that sees Cleveland Farrell as a top 5 talent, and then he turns out not to be, that's kind of on you.
I was getting to that. It was like, sometimes you see these teams, they reach for somebody and be like, oh man, what did they see? Like, oh my God, this guy. But if you do that a bunch and it just never works, it's like maybe you just have a bad scouting, take on things.
When you use draft capital on Jacobs as a running back, well inside the first round, that's on you. There were a lot of missteps really in terms of self-evaluation, being able to evaluate what worked for your team last year and then seeing what they did this offseason, and we'll get to that, was problematic.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess reflecting a little more on 2020, I did not expect the Raiders to be in the playoff picture. And yet, lo and behold, after a miraculous win against the Jets, week 13, they were 7-5. They were 7-5, and they were very much alive for that seventh playoff spot in the very competitive AFC. That included a couple of huge wins for them. They beat the Browns. They beat the Chargers. They beat the Chiefs.
I was going to say the only reason they were into contention was a 6-3 win where you beat the Saints, Chiefs, and Browns. Like that, that team with that amount of talent usually doesn't win those 3 games.
You hosted the Saints in your house without a crowd, and you went toe-to-toe with them and then beat them. Now, granted, that was very much helped by some fortuitous officiating, but you beat them by 10 points. I bet on a lot. As I'm looking up and down the schedule, I'm just realizing now I bet on a lot of Raiders games last year. I was in on almost every one of these games. I thought the Chiefs were going to come off their bye and absolutely throttle them, but the Raiders hung in there. And that week 11 game, lost 35-31, probably should have won. The next week, getting blown out by the Falcons, you saw that coming. I can't exactly tell why that happened, but I remember seeing that coming. And then, they get a lucky win against the Jets, but that was about it. The next week, they underwhelmed against the Colts.
Yeah, that was the cover zero play.
Against the Jets, yeah. The 31-28 win was handed to you.
That cost Greg Williams his job, that loss. And really, like you said, the Atlanta game,
That's right.
you were banging the drum heavily for that Atlanta game. I don't even think you saw it going that one. Like,
no.
Atlanta was going to play well in that game, but what Carr did to exacerbate it was hilarious. The Colts game was a big embarrassment one too. The Chargers game was like I think the Chargers kept missing field goals, and then that went to overtime. It was like LA refused to win.
The Chargers game was crazy though, because that was in prime time.
Yep.
That was Thursday night football.
That's the only reason I watched.
Yeah, again, you're still alive for the playoff spot, but you need a win. And that one went to overtime in insane fashion. And I think the back and forth was crazy. You had Marcus Mariota come in for Derek Carr, whose groin exploded. And the Raiders got stoned on a touchdown opportunity with the first drive in overtime, ended up kicking a field goal. And so the Chargers had to score a touchdown to get the win. And Herbert looked like he got stopped and the clock was going to tick out and they were going to lose. Chargers were going to find another insane way to lose. But ultimately Herbert got in with the 1-yard rush. Herbert, by the way, when we get to the Chargers, remind me to bring this up. Herbert's ability to gain short yardage was brutally bad last year. He is like a weird.
He needs to watch some Cam Newton.
He's the anti Cam Newton to a degree. He just can't get those short yardage. I don't know what it is.
I think the injury, the Mariota thing, was the Dolphins game, wasn't it?
Mariota came in against the Chargers, and then Mariota played the entire Dolphins game.
He played the Dolphins game too. Yeah, that was the weird one too. That just snatching victory from the jaws of defeat with the Jets thing where they handed it to you essentially. But then you had the Washington game where they give up that long pass to Fitzmagic, and then on top of it, just if I remember it right, it was like one of those like, oh my God, is his neck broken face masks where it's like really, really apparent. And then it's like he put him in kind of field goal range, and then you see that and like, oh, like it's gonna be like a 35-yard field goal now, and they're gonna lose. And then really like the Denver game, this team finished second in the division. But the Denver game, it was two meaningless teams that had been eliminated, and they actually scored a touchdown on fourth down, got a 2-point conversion, and then blocked a kick. Like,
hey, you know what? You want to know something crazy?
They won it. They won that game.
We got to fix actually the record. I was wrong. Mariota did not play in the Dolphins game. It was Derek Carr came back from that groin injury and played the next week on a short week. I didn't realize that. But Derek Carr played the entirety of that Dolphins game, including an 85-yard pass to Nelson Aguilar to put the Raiders up 22-16. Presumably their season is saved. They did not convert the extra point. This is important. So they were up by 6 points, not 7. The next play, Miles Gaskin, or next drive, Miles Gaskin, 59-yard touchdown pass from Ryan Fitzpatrick. I don't remember that. That was insane.
I
Yeah,
think it was a
because
scamper.
they did convert their kick. So they're up by 23-22. But the Raiders, with 19 seconds left, kick a 22-yard field goal to go up 25-23. Now, how do you lose when there are 19 seconds remaining and you're up by 2 points? How does that happen? Well, Ryan Fitzmagic absolutely had the crazy horseshoe up his ass. And like you said, he made the play. He got the face mask, set them up for the 1 second remaining 44-yard field goal by Jason Sanders. Was good. That was the most insane game of the NFL regular season in terms of how in the world did we end up here. That wasn't a great game. It was a bad game.
I remember
in general.
No.
But
it was a good bad game, and I do remember why. I thought Mariota played versus Tua because of Motoy's tweet about the Hawaiian on Hawaiian pain, because they're like the what you saw. You remember in that Chargers game when Carr went out, he ran out of bounds and just grabbed his hammy like it had snapped. I didn't think he'd play the next week. So I mean, kudos to him, the tough guy.
You know what the best part? The best part of all this, by the way, was 51 total points. You want to know what the closing total was?
51.5.
48. So it only went over because.
Which one was that? That we middled or something?
This one middled. Yeah, I think. No, this one did not middle. This one went. Over.
There was a different one.
This one went over, but it was still hysterical. 51 points on just with 6 points coming in the final 20 seconds from either team kicking a field goal. So, yeah. And ultimately, if they had just converted their extra point, they would have at least had overtime opportunity, but it was not to be. Either way, the Vegas Raiders saw their season end in prime time. So if you were a fan, at least you got to see some drama. At least there was some drama. At least it was some interest. You weren't just another one of the teams that ran their season went sideways on them and nothing interesting happened. That feels more like what we're in for this year with this team, because I don't think a second place finish in the AFC West is in the cards.
No. And yes, it was, I can't remember what preview I was reading the other day, and they showed like all these Raiders coaches that got extended into their fourth year, and it's happened to Chucky twice now. So this was technically his 7th year as a Raiders coach, but it was like James A. Garfield, non-concurrent,
Non-concurrent, sure.
Or like I know a couple that got divorced, remarried later on after they got divorced again, and they count it like this is our 20th anniversary technically if you push them all together. Like, I don't know if that's how it works, but anyway, yeah, like the fact that I don't understand, I guess, what Mark Davis
did they get remarried on the same day that they had gotten married before?
God, I'm gonna have to ask him.
That'd be interesting.
Having 2 anniversaries, that's a tough look for that guy.
Yeah.
That's tough. That's a lot of presents. But yeah, the fact that they brought him back after, again, you improved by a game on a 2-point conversion in a meaningless game. You were 7-9 the previous year. You've improved every year technically, but I don't see like the rebuild, what you should have gotten with all these draft picks over the past few years. It just hasn't translated into like excitement for this team. And again, I don't want to shit too hard on Derek Carr. He's not a bad quarterback. He's never going to be. He's a very limited range. Like he's not Alex Smith check down, but he's not scared to check down. And really, just like over his career, he hasn't turned the ball over a lot, but he hasn't been spectacular either. It's just a small range, high floor, low ceiling. Like he is what he's going to get. And again, we'll discuss too in the offseason stuff if we think the receiving core got better or worse.
Well, let's talk about the offseason. The key players lost is really where I want to start. For a team,
3/5 of the offensive line.
Yeah, for a team that their clear and obvious strength, if you watched a lot of their games last year, was the performance of the offensive line. For them to move on from Rodney Hudson, who was playing near an all-pro level, and as well as Gabe Jackson, who I thought was very, very, capable, starting, great starting guard, immediately snapped up by the Seahawks, by the way. Rodney Hudson immediately snapped up by the Cardinals, by the way. So Raiders' loss is the NFC West's gain, apparently. And then you have Trent Brown. He's gone. And granted, Trent Brown's best days are way behind him, but the interior is the aspect that I'm concerned about. And oh, by the way, you shouldn't be loving the idea of teams that desperately needed offensive line, i.e., the Seahawks and the Cardinals, immediately snapping up your cast-offs, and the Patriots coming to get your right tackle. Like, none of those are good signs if you're evaluating them in a vacuum. And then if you're evaluating them for this team specifically, Derek Carr has performed at a very notably better level when you can provide him with interior pass pro compared to when he is feeling pressure up the middle. He is skipping balls. He's throwing balls out of bounds. He's not performing the job of quarterback. And
this happened before.
This is self-inflicted, and it's absolutely mind-blowing that they did this to themselves. And all of their decisions in the offseason, I raise immediate questions about. They give $13 million to Yannick Ngakoue. What has he shown you now in the last couple of years?
Little pushback. He got moved around a lot, but the guy's putting up like 7, 8, 9 sacks every year. Like he's not flashy.
Without looking it up, where did he end his season last year?
He went to Minnesota, back to Baltimore, and then was there a third team? Or he went Baltimore to Minnesota to.
He went Jacksonville to Minnesota to Baltimore. He finished his season for the Raiders. You remember all those amazing plays he made for the Raiders in the playoffs and down the stretch for them, getting them into playoff?
I still think he's going to be decent. I'm not excited about this defense by any means. I won't stand for Ngakoue slander. He was the Minnesota Vikings leading sack getter last year in like the 6 games he played for them. And really, like, I want to talk about something you and I got to last 2 years ago. I believe it was. Sure. We had a similar situation. I was about to say in California. I have to come to terms with this team not being in the state of California anymore. But it was the Rams losing a good center and a good guard and having a quarterback who didn't like interior pressure. And they took a decent step back off of Super Bowl year. No, in my best, what's like a monologue voice, like, now let me tell you that team was 8-8. Yes. It was like the end of Time to Kill. Like this team wasn't a Super Bowl team. Like that's what that can do to a team. Outside of, quarterback is the most important position. Head coach is kind of right there too, even though it's not a position. But outside of a left tackle, like your interior offensive line might be more important than anything, because just nothing works if you're getting constant pressure up the middle, because edge rushers are always going to do edge rusher shit. And this could be. I'm very concerned about that. They had a longer list of offseason changes than a lot of teams we ran into, and I mean we talked about essentially traded away 3/5 of the starting O-line. They brought in a rookie from Bama, which again could be good. It often takes some time, and there's a lack of continuity there. I wanted your opinion on the Aguilar for John Brown swap. Essentially, Aguilar had 900 yards and 8 touchdowns. That's a lot.
I'm fine with that, but John Brown.
I call it tit for tat.
I'm fine with that, but John Brown is redundant. He's redundant to the role you expect to get out of Ruggs. I mean, the redundancy is obvious to anyone who's paying attention. That's the same player. So why you went that way, I would not. I can't tell you.
Yeah, I would have rather had a slot guy.
You want another redundancy question? Why in the fuck did you go get Kenyon Drake? What was the point of that? Like, why after you drafted Jacobs? I mean, you're worried about your running game, falling off if Jacobs gets hurt. So you go out and add $5.5 million Kenyon Drake. I mean,
you should see my note on this. It's the top one. It says Kenyon Drake added for running back depth, because there's a question mark. Like, right. I'm like, was that a need?
Was it a need? No.
The needs are all on the other side of the ball. Casey Hayward.
Casey Hayward is a fine player, but his best days are behind him.
Yeah, I was going to say he's getting a little. And then they drafted a safety, which is usually something that gives immediate. Although he was
a guy that was expected to go higher, but
he was mocked in the first round to
their
the
round
Jags
one pick.
Like everybody.
The round 1 pick of Alex Leatherwood was a deja vu all over again. Cleveland Farrell situation. No one had Alex Leatherwood ranked in the top 7, not top 6, top half of this draft. No way. Like he
I
was
had
a
him like
fringe.
35% for the first
Yeah,
round because we were doing the Bama props.
Exactly. Yes, correct. You're correct. You were correct. Mayock was the only guy that saw it differently.
17th overall instead. We had him fringe because the Bama prop was like hinging on him and Barmore and like one other person, and they all had like less than 50% probabilities for the first round. And it's like when then Leatherwood went, I'm like, oh my God, the Bama prop's hitting, isn't it? Jesus Christ. We need to start doing this in more in the next draft. Is like, well, we have to take the Raiders into account. Like they could literally just do anything. Maybe not after this year if they end up cleaning house.
Yeah, I guess. But yeah, no, I mean, just to kind of put one more point on the move of Yannick Ngakoue, my rating for him after last season was barely replacement level. Like I don't know what happened with his production or with his performance that it fell off so much. But there were guys that left this team that I had almost the same rating on, which is maybe that sounds crazy.
Horseshit rush defender. Like he's just a pure edge pass rusher guy. And on the right defense, where you can say, hey, guess what? You're in on second and longs and every third down. That's not third and one. Like he's great for that. He's great for that. But in a defense like this that doesn't have all this a wealth of defensive linemen, it doesn't make sense to use him as a a rotation guy like that. So I don't know. I like him, but I agree it doesn't make a ton of sense for what they did with him.
Yeah. I mean, it was not a meaningful upgrade in my opinion. And again, ultimately, potentially going to come out for the Raiders at quarterback this year with a weak offensive line. So you're counting on your offensive line coach to do the best job in the NFL. What do you think the chances of that are?
It's Tom Cable, so
it's Tom Cable.
Yes. Low. It was Tom Cable last year, and your defensive coordinator.
He had talent to work with last year.
Yeah, he actually, it was like you said, it was a strength. They took it was a weird move. It was almost like, the beginning of Ted Lasso or the the Indians movie. What was that? Major League, where it's like, we're trying to make the team bad. Like, let's take one of our strengths and absolutely hamstring it, and then not really improve the other strengths or the other weaknesses.
I can't believe you went there because I was really hoping you were. Was this intentional?
Like, is Mayock trying to get rid of Gruden? I feel like Gruden.
Not Gruden, but get rid of Carr. Like this, because like honestly, like we've seen enough of Derek Carr to know that you should not re-sign him to a long-term big money deal if you were the Raiders, unless he can perform under this situation that you've created for him, right? Like if Carr is competitive this season, then you probably have enough information to stick with him. But you've set him up to fail. You have absolutely set him up to fail. Did they do it on purpose?
Yeah, I don't know. Let's talk the Mayock Gruden experience because it's a lot of money, and I don't understand fully how the coaching contracts work. Like, if you fire Gruden, you have to pay all that money?
Probably.
That's $1 million question. By $1 million, I mean like $6 million, $60 million question, because, and we know that Davis isn't cash rich, so maybe did that play into
I don't
keeping
think
Gruden for next year?
Even remotely
a lot of teams
last year, but your point is fair, which is if this is an underwhelming season, if they're 3-14 and Derek Carr looks like the worst version of that we have seen him as a pro. Is Gruden going to be on the hot seat then? And my answer would be probably not because of the money, right? It's so much. So
it's so much money.
Not. Mayock, maybe. I don't know. I don't know if Mayock is in good graces or not, but
I don't want him fired. I want him back on TV.
I mean, his
God,
tenure has been. I don't even know if you can generously give him a D.
Yeah, I guess if your management, ownership, what have you, who do you blame more for the drafting? And that's going to come down to who did you give the most responsibility to with the drafting. And if it is Mayock and they have a bad season, you know, Leatherwood doesn't pan out, the safety doesn't hardly play, and you know Farrell doesn't take a step forward, and a lot of these other guys they drafted, it's just then maybe you do look at getting rid of Mayock. I'm not sure.
For a guy that covered the draft professionally for so many years, how is he not aware of the perceived value of these players? And even if he is going to go full contrarian and say, no, my rankings are better than the hive mind, at least know that if you are targeting these guys, you could get more value from those picks by trading down, right? Like what is it that's going on with this guy that he is like, you know, missing is the only guy in the room. He's the only guy in the room that's surprised when there is fan disillusionment after they take Alex Leatherwood 17th overall. Why is he surprised?
Yeah, I don't know. Is he just not listening to any I feel like all these other ones. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like fully, you know, isolating himself from all the other noise and being like, you know, not realizing like, man, I could probably take this guy by trading up in the second, and maybe not even trading up that far. You know, just not knowing what other GMs are doing. I don't have any other explanation. I'm at a loss here. So it's yeah, it's baffled me for sure, just based on like the Farrell pick. Like when it's a one-off, like, all right, we took a shot with our guy, and you know the most common one people bring up maybe is Trubisky. Like he traded up and took him where people didn't think, and that was a high-profile one with a quarterback. I think some of this Mayock stuff goes under the radar a little if you're not a Raiders fan or not following it as closely, because it's like nobody remembers. Oh, like yeah, they took Clelin Ferrell, and that was a bust at that pick. They had like 3 first-rounders that year. They had 2 this year, and just none of those guys have really turned out outside of. I mean, you have a decent running back, and that's something you can find pretty easily. I don't want to put Kenyon Drake up there, but yeah, you can just go get a Kenyon Drake and probably get a decent amount of production out of him as well. So
let me ask I got a couple more unanswerable questions for you about this team.
Hat tip, Mr. Simmons. Yeah.
Hat tip to the rewatchables. I've been listening to a lot of those lately as I drive around. The defense was clearly bottom 5 in the NFL last year, correct?
Yeah, I'm putting it there again.
Question number 1 that's unanswerable: did they upgrade it? And then question number 2: what is the strength of this defense?
And I can't put something ahead of other. Like if I had to put something ahead of other things.
What about question 1? Did they upgrade the defense?
No, I don't believe so. Like the Hayward signing is fine. You're probably going to be starting a rookie free safety. Arnett, we'll see if he improves off last year. Again, the Ngakoue thing, I don't think he's a 3-down DN. He's going to be a fine pass rusher. Just going to get some sacks on 3rd and long. But Farrell, I don't see him taking a step forward. So, like, what you did was bring in Ngakoue, Hayward, drafted a free safety, and I mean Gerald McCoy.
No,
I
don't even know if he makes the team.
Yeah, he's like 33, 34. So I don't think, if anything, the defense maybe takes a tiny step forward in coverage if Hayward can take away a little bit, but Abrams, bad. You have a bad strong safety. You have another corner that's not going to play well, and a young slot corner. And yeah, I struggle to take any part of that team and put it ahead of the rest. Like, I guess if you had to, I'd say maybe the front 4 is better than the secondary, but that's only by attrition.
Right now, Clelin Ferrell is playing behind your 2019 4th-round pick, Max Crosby. That's Max with 2 X's. Right now, your 2020 number 1 overall pick, Damon Arnett, is playing behind the guy you just signed, Casey Hayward. Casey Hayward, who has a difficulty staying healthy at this time of the year, and who you just picked up for $2.5 million off the scrap heap. I think the answer to both questions is there is no strength, and it didn't improve, and there is no strength. I think these guys are going to give up the pass, and I don't think they're going to be able to get off the field when other teams are putting them in run the ball, run the clock out situations.
So let me ask you this then. If last year, what kept him in it last year? And I mean, what kept him in games at times, especially against, let's say, the Chiefs, the Chargers?
In obvious passing downs, they had great pass pro and Derek Carr precision passing down the field.
He can make that first read like nobody's business. Like,
yes,
if somebody's open and that's the person that was supposed to be open, you're getting a first down because he was well protected and he's pretty accurate with the ball.
Yes.
If protection broke down or he had to go, further, it was often just a running back check down and we'd end up with a punt situation. But the offense was decent at times, and you can probably give Gruden some credit for that. That's his specialty, I suppose. And again, if we're going to have the breakdown in the center of this offensive line in the interior, and he's not getting that protection, and you're saying the receiver core probably didn't improve. Yes, Waller's great, and yes, you have an okay deep threat with Ruggs, but the redundancy with Brown is kind of weird. I would have probably got a slot guy, or kept Aguilar. I guess I'm not sure what the whole deal is there. So if the offense takes a step back and the defense hasn't got better, we're saying this team is going to be worse than 8-8. And that kind of brings me to the schedule. We'll get to that, but boy,
well,
not a lot of advantage spots for them.
Let's give a little bit of positive shine. Let's be a little positive here and just say.
I try to say nice things about Derek Carr.
Gruden's scheme, Greg Olson is offensive coordinator. It's strong. A lot of first down passes. Carr was very good on first down passes in the first 3 quarters of the game, and they got off to some good starts because of that. Honestly, but I think as teams start to figure out their tendencies, as they're anticipating more first down passes, and as you can, create a little bit of a mismatch against their inexperienced interior offensive line, I think you're going to be able to turn that against them to a degree. And I also worry about why they went out and got Drake, and they're like, "Oh, we got to establish the run kind of mentality."
Should we run more?
Seems like it might be in the cards for them, which is horrific. But that's this. Let's look at the schedule and let's figure out where the wins are, because I'm struggling to find the wins.
Also, in your little color-coded thing, often we'll find teams that are like, oh, here it's an advantageous spot, here's a disadvantaged spot, here's an advantage spot. It's not that way. Outside of just the relative strength of schedule, with enough teams there that are 500 teams or better, they have the 4 early games in the East Coast, the East time zone. They have Cleveland in December on a back-to-back road. They had that weird that Cincy coming off their bye, which again we don't know what that team might not be very good, but Cincy off their bye in a weird sandwich of probably some track meet games if the offense plays okay.
Yep.
You get Philly off the bye. So I've named those are all disadvantage spots, and then really your only advantage spot is the mega mini bye versus Washington football team, where you get them off a Monday, you're off a Thursday. So you get a great advantage spot against Washington. That'll be a really shitty game. And honestly, it might not. Some of these Raiders games are so entertaining. The ones we went over last year, they were so worse. So it's not great. And then on top of it, and we'll get to the quarterback situation in the Mile High City, even if Denver decides that they didn't do anything outside of getting Bridgewater, Bridgewater and those receivers are more than capable of taking that defense to task. The Chargers are going to be a much better team, obviously. You saw what they had in the second half of the season with the rookie, the young rookie quarterback there, and you have the Chiefs twice, and then just on top of that, everything else. Like I said, Cleveland on the road. It's going to be tough to find 6, 7, 8 wins here.
Yeah, I am exactly there with you. They got to play 5 games in the 1 p.m. time slot on Sundays. Never a great sign. You mentioned all of those spots I'm concerned about. I do agree. I like them against Washington in that nice little They get to host Washington on a Sunday. Washington's coming off of Monday. The mega mini bye. Yeah, that's a beauty. And oh my God, that Cincinnati game. Number one, happily taking those 4.5 points. I don't think that's going to be around by the time we get to the middle of the season. That's going to be a pick 'em, if not Cincinnati, a small favorite on the money line. But that over right now, you want to guess what that total is this moment as all the look aheads are up right now?
High 40s?
50. And that closes 54 would be my guess.
Yeah, and that's another thing too. As you look at some of these teams where they're favored against, or a pick against Miami, Chicago, Philly, Cincy, Washington, Denver.
All teams with upside.
Well, they're all teams with maybe a little bit questionable quarterback play.
Sure.
And the great equalizer in that is having a horseshit secondary to throw against. That's how you make that's how you make Andy Dalton or a rookie. That's how you make Tua. That's how you make Hurts. That's how you make a second-year player coming off an injury in Burrow, Washington, Fitzmagic.
Great point.
Bad secondary.
It's just a great point.
It's still a bad spot for Washington, but all those teams are favored against. And then Teddy, and the last one is the Chargers, who I think have a good quarterback, albeit young. The great equalizer to a bad quarterback is playing against a bad secondary. Even bad quarterbacks look good if the coverage sucks ass. There's some decent receivers on those teams as well.
Yeah, you made Drew Lock look good last year. Final game of the season. Yeah, no, it's you nailed it. Your defense is going to make those bad quarterbacks look good on the schedule. I think that is exactly correct. Nothing about this defense to me screams that the problem has been solved in any way, shape, or form. Even though you brought in new defensive coordinator, Gus Bradley.
Gus Bradley, former head coach Gus Bradley. Gus Bradley was cut loose by the Chargers last year.
He was their DC under Anthony Lynn.
You know who he replaced? The fired Paul Gunther, who was, and this is not good for this team, is scooped up by Minnesota instantly because he used to coach with Zimmer. So, we better get him a job up there.
Oh boy, not great. Yeah. Not interested in I don't think that's solving the problem. I guess I'll put it that way.
We have a funny little glitch in the odds too, and when we pop over there, you'll have to look at this.
Oh, but let's look at the odds because I'm ready to find a way to attack these guys.
The old joke is that Super Bowl. Is that missing a zero? Because it actually is.
It is missing a zero. Okay, yeah,
that's
75-1 to win the Super Bowl. Unbettable. 30-1 to win the AFC. That is unbettable. I really don't. The AFC West, 17-1 is actually probably a fair price. That's probably bettable, but I want nothing to do with it. I mean, the Raiders have we're going to go through the rest of the AFC West. The AFC West is a gauntlet, and everybody has some tough schedules. I guess the Raiders' schedule isn't quite as tough as some of these other guys. I guess. But it's not easy to make the playoffs. No, minus 475. Yes, plus 250. I don't see them winning enough games to get a wild card.
Not in the AFC. That's awful tricky.
Regular season win total over 6.5 is minus 200. Under 6.5 is plus 155. Under 6.5 at plus 155 is bettable. If things go sideways for this offense because of the pressure breakdowns, interior pressure breakdowns, and Derek Carr plays like his former self, where he had some seasons under pressure, you're talking about a bottom 5 QB. And then this team is winning three or four games.
Yeah, I have some under positions on earlier numbers. There's people that got 8s, which is
somebody got higher. 8?
There are some weird soft openers.
Wow.
This one has been bet, and again, we're getting here. It's August 23rd. This one's been bet down, and we're going to talk about the Broncos today too. That's one that has been bet up precipitously because of the rumors. First of Watson going there, and second of Rodgers going there. So that win total is probably a tad inflated at this point in the season, and I think people need to realize that if you didn't get in early on some of these teams, it might be just best to sit out out. I can still see an under here at a plus number. Maybe an alt under too, but yeah, I'm pretty much staying away. I already have some Raiders positions on the under, and that's where I'm at.
Nice. I completely subscribe to that. There's not a lot of upside here for these guys, as we've covered in detail. I can entirely see this being like Gruden's first season where they had 4 wins.
Yeah, back to zero, and then back to square one, and then they probably just keep him another year anyway.
By the way, that year when Gruden was a first year on the job for these guys, the second time around, not the first year, but the second first year. Derek Carr EPA per play, bottom 5 in the NFL that season, and a ton of it was because of pressure. So
they had a weird receiver room too that year. I feel like I'm gonna have to go look at that season. That's interesting.
Did they really? 2018? Was it weird? You want to guess who was in the room?
2017, I thought was the first year.
No, this is his 4th season. Gruden went 4-12, 7-9, and 8-8.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. 18, 19, 20. It's the 7th season. We've discussed this. But yeah, we'll go back and look at that first. That's a discussion for a different day. We'll get on with it. We'll talk some Broncos.
They had Jordy Nelson that year, and Amari Cooper.
They did have Jordy.
And Seth Roberts. This was the weird.
That's another one, too. They got rid of Cooper for picks, and that should have turned out better. The Cooper and Mack and all the picks they brought should have turned out better. That's
their best receiver that year.
The Raiders in a nutshell right now.
Yeah. Real quick before moving off the Raiders, Ruggs going to break out this year, or was he a bust?
You know what you need for long passes? You need protection. You need to sit back there and drop 7 steps. So,
is that the right way to utilize Ruggs?
It's his best asset is his speed. I don't know. I'm not an offensive coordinator.
Can he do anything else?
Maybe he can, and maybe somebody like Gruden, who I still think has some offensive capabilities in him, or as far as scheming up something unique, I think maybe he'll be able to do something with it, but I'm not super hopeful.
Do you think they they would take a redo on
Judy?
Judy and Lamb were in the conversation. No one
Judy, Lamb, Ayuk.
No one was saying Jefferson should be wide receiver 1, but do you think they would like a redo?
I'd like Judy. I'd rather have Judy. I think he's way more versatile.
I would too. Do you think they would like a redo on Cleveland Farrell?
Yeah, they'd like a redo on almost all of these. Essentially, the running back was the only good pick in the last couple of years. And that's damning. God,
dude. Do you know, they didn't really, there wasn't anybody on the board who really stands out that could have been a huge difference maker at the edge. The best in that class looks to be Brian Burns, but he was pretty consensus mid-tier, middle of the class round 1. There's really, other than like the likes of Josh Allen and that was the other Josh Allen. That was a defensive Josh Allen. Yeah.
Other Josh Allen.
There really wasn't anyone who stands out in this was a bad draft. The 2019 NFL draft was bad.
Yeah, and they made it worse.
This was a bad draft. And they had a whole shitload of capital in this one. They happened to have they held all the cards in a bad draft. So that's definitely not helping. Yeah. All right. I'm starting to understand a little bit more now. But reaching for Cleveland Farrell was inexcusable. Taking Josh Jacobs Jacobs didn't help you. Abram didn't help you.
That's what sucks. Like I said, that's their best draft pick, and it was, but it's still a running back, and it's not. This is not, what you're gonna build a roster around. So, all right.
Yeah, I'm not even sure. I'm not convinced he was the best running back in that draft yet.
No,
there was a lot of guys who you've gotten really good production out of a lot of other guys in that draft, including Damian Harris and Miles Sanders and Devin Singletary and David Montgomery. I mean, there was a lot of guys who went in round 3 who would have given you about the same production that you've gotten out of Josh Jacobs to this point. So good job, Mayock. Let's move on to the Broncos.
Yeah, hopefully Mayock wasn't listening, because we just kind of just beat him to death for a while.
Well,
there. Oh, quick. Yeah.
Hey, man. We're objectively giving him a review 3 years onto the job. This is This is
This is
not.
your performance review,
Yeah,
Mike.
no. Some people looked at his drafts the day
Oh,
of
you're
and
so
gave him
close
an
to moving
F
on, and I brought
because
it
he
up again.
reached. Some people graded his drafts those days and gave him Fs. We've at least given it a little couple years to breathe, and we're giving him an F. So I don't know what to say. I guess we'll give him a D.
D minus. I'm fine with that.
All right. Let's talk about the Broncos, and let's talk about John Elway, who also gets a D minus because he has put together a team that is ready to win now outside of the most important position on the field, which is a position that they have been unable to find a competent player for now, going on all the years since Peyton Manning's arm fell off.
I thought he actually did get fired.
He fired himself?
He fired himself. And I would have to fire myself if I didn't do my ad read here.
Oh, okay. By all means.
Yeah, the PrizePicks.
Let's talk about PrizePicks.
I need Trevor Lawrence to do a little better here. He has 27 yards. Jameis Winston looking good. We probably will touch on halftime when we get there.
Really?
Jameis Winston, 9 of 10, 123 and 2 touchdowns, and he's out of the game now. They put Taysom in, but yeah, Lawrence struggling.
The starting job.
He may have. He looked pretty good according to Twitter, but I do have a PrizePicks entry with T-Law in it. I need him to just keep playing. Honestly, I figured I'd win that one by attrition because I thought he'd get a lot of playing time today. Is what they said. So if you want to play along with us, $100 match, 100%. Up to $100 instant deposit. And using the promo code Deep Dive, Trevor Lawrence to Etienne for 3 yards. There we go. We're just slowly adding it, getting to I think I need 96 yards out of him. So it's going to be a struggle.
You're matriculating the ball down the field. That's I need to start. You need 96 more yards? Is that what you said?
No, I need 96 total. I think I'll have to double check. But Hank Stram stuff there, matriculating. That was a halftime kind of like a code word last year. So all right, absolutely. back to the Broncos. Remember when we talked about the Raiders a bit ago, and yes. I said they had weird games. Like this was another
equally weird.
Equally weird. A lot of weird close games, like both Chargers games again. The Chargers games are weird. We're not even going to spend time on the Hinton game because we've wiped that from the record books. That game didn't happen. If you're running numbers and trying to use historical data, that is just going to be an anomaly point that you should be tossing out because it shouldn't have any forward bearing on prognosticating anything in the NFL. As Kendall Hinton becomes the second most famous Hinton behind S.E. Hinton, young female author from back in the day. And funny enough,
I'm a literature guy. I don't know who S.E. Hinton is.
You've read The Outsiders, haven't you?
Oh,
that movie with everybody in it.
It's an awful movie.
The book was better. I hate to say it because that's so cliche, but yeah, the song sucked. And I like Stevie Wonder, but yeah, the movie wasn't great. Stay Gold, Pony Boy. There was a train of thought that just got derailed because I had to go do some weird reference.
No.
The Hinton thing. Okay. Funny enough, looking back at that, the NFL stats and what have you, they award something akin to a pitcher's win-loss. If a quarterback starts the game and you lose the game, you take the loss because you were the starter, and that's where you come away with quarterback win-loss records. Yes. Philip Lindsay took the loss. Philip Lindsay will never recover from that. He will always have a below 500, a losing quarterback record because he took the first snap out of Wildcat. In fact, he took the first couple snaps before Hinton came in. So technically,
that's fantastic. I did not realize this.
Little barroom trivia because everyone calls it the Kendall Hinton game.
It's the Philip Lindsay game.
Your starting quarterback that day was Philip Lindsay. So ugly game. Yeah, we had a couple other weird, ugly, close games.
Brett Rippon also started a game.
And that's the thing too. Like the fact that this season was marred by so much injury that you had games where Brett Rippon started. You had Jeff Driscoll.
Jeff Driscoll started a game.
Yeah.
What game did Jeff Driscoll start?
I think maybe the first one, honestly. I thought he played right off the bat.
No. Drew Lock was live against the Titans. They realistically they should have won that game. They had
I feel like he played in
4 or 5
games.
missed kicks from Gostkowski in that one, and the Titans still managed to get a win. That was a bizarre game. Bizarre. Yeah, you're right. This was like none of this really happened. This was a very, very bizarre.
Yeah, five
season.
and I mean, just I'm not going to spend a ton of time in the year because 5-11. The Chargers game that they won was just a weird back and forth thing. The Jets game was a Jets game, even though it was on the road. They didn't technically win 2 games in a row because the 2 games they won in a row, they won with a bye in between them. They beat the Patriots in Gillette. They beat the Jets in MetLife. And the rest of the games they won at home. No, they did win that late game against the Panthers. That was late season Panthers swoon, I suppose.
Yeah.
The Chiefs game that was kind of close. Again, this whole division had these games that were kind of weird close ones, especially the Chiefs with basically all the other teams in the division outside of that. Yeah, I think they did blow the Raiders out a little bit the one time at the late Chargers game in SoFi, the 16-19, the Raiders game that we already talked about to close the season. Obviously, the Bills were finding their form late in the season and, just blew the doors off them, put up all pert near a 40 burger, a 50 burger on them. Pert near a 50 burger on them. Yeah, I'm feeling kind of country.
I remember that game. Well. I don't remember which one was the Driscoll game. I do remember the Rippon game was the Jets where they got the win. Rippon will probably go down as an all-time winner as a QB starter. I don't think he'll
Driscoll
ever get another
week
start.
2.
He was 1-0. Did
yeah,
Drew
the
Lock get hurt against
Tennessee? Drew Lock got hit by Bud Dupree and effed up his shoulder, and then Driscoll comes in. Steelers luck, the Steelers did start 11-0, but a lot of luck there. So Driscoll played that game. He played the Bucks game, which
he must have started. He came in relief for the Steelers. He started the Bucks. Okay, and then there was Rippon time for week 4. God, what a mess of a fucking season.
Rippon in the overlapping. Rippon came in late in the Bucks game because they were losing badly. They didn't score in the second half. They started 0-3. And then Rippon was your winning quarterback against the Jets.
Yeah,
I feel like maybe there might have even been some Flacco, and that wasn't the Flacco.
Flacco was the Jets quarterback.
Flacco was later, but
Flacco was the Jets quarterback in that game.
Maybe he did play. Man, there were some ugly matchups at quarterback in the league last year. The Patriots game was maybe the return of Locke, and then we obviously the Hinton game late. So 5-11 season never really was in it, but we saw some flashes of fun from this receiving core, and we said maybe they need to go get a quarterback, and this
was such a weird team. I'm struggling to really put a point on their season because I don't think I bet a game until week 13. I took the points against Kansas City because at that point we kind of knew Kansas City wasn't using the good plays against the bad teams. And so you got, I think they were 13, 14 point dogs in that one, maybe more, 16. It was a big ass number. And I took the points and I didn't even watch it. That was a Sunday night football game. My God. Chiefs, they were 13-point dogs apparently. Anyway, they covered. I was fired up about that. And then I remember laying the points with the Bills. And that was just such a bad matchup because the secondary, everyone in the Broncos secondary was hurt.
They had no pass rush.
The Bills were not pulling their punches. They were like, we're just going to keep scoring because why not? And it was fun to watch. And we dipped. We did a halftime show for that one. Remember on that Saturday? It was like Christmas shopping season. Double dipped on that one. Hit it again at halftime. That was a really fun Saturday.
I like a good double dip because the double dip, there's a bit of a bias to that. That's like, oh man, am I going more? And it does take some huevos to be doing that.
Well, you knew it wasn't luck. You knew you weren't in a good situation at halftime because of luck, and you knew the Bills were a team that were just going to continue to put their foot on their throats. The Drew Lock experience last year was bad. He was you want to guess this? He was in contention with Wentz for worst quarterback on my rankings. Barely behind Darnold, barely above Wentz, a little bit below Jones. That's not a esteemed company. That's bad. And it wasn't because of his EPA per play. That wasn't great, but that wasn't that far off what you would expect. It was because his completion percentage above expectation was like historically putrid. He could not make the easy and medium throws beyond the hard throws. He couldn't make the easy ones. There was a lot of Jerry Jeudy running amok, running wide open, and he couldn't hit him. There was a lot of Noah Fant creating separation as a tight end, couldn't hit him. And ultimately it was a lost season for the Broncos because of his play.
Yeah, and losing Sutton, that sucks. Like, you lost Sutton, but really Jeudy has turned out to be good. Fant turned out to be okay. Hamler and Tim Patrick were pretty good depth guys. Like, you had decent receiving options. You actually had a half decent receiving back for parts of the year. I think Hamler it's really too. I was trying to think of what Hamler's injury was and how much time he did miss.
I don't think he played.
I thought he got some. He got usage rate. He got some usage. I'm gonna have to go double check what his injury was. I know Sutton was like right away, and then Von Miller was like the day before the season started or something silly, like literally like right before it happened.
Yeah,
it's like, oh man, and it's like a contract year for him too. This sucks, and everyone was pumped for him and Chubb, and you do get that this year. So, I mean, if we want to concentrate on maybe some positives with the changes, like they did re-sign Von Miller, like you now have that a pretty nasty combo on the edges. They tagged Justin Simmons. They signed Kyle Fuller. They drafted Surtain. Like, this defense could be pretty good. And if the quarterback play is at league average, all of a sudden it's a team that's not getting embarrassed anymore. Like, I think a lot of upside, but it's kind of like the Vikings, where it's like, hey, here's a bunch of things that could go right. And if a bunch of them do, this team is competitive.
Yeah.
And if half of them go right, this team is not competitive, but probably still better than last year. So I'm cautiously optimistic, but the biggest things are the defense has to make something of these additions / returns from injuries, and the quarterback play has to not be, 35th in the league.
What do you think of Chubb? Is he overrated or appropriately rated? Because he's not underrated. Is he any good?
No. Yeah, I think he's fine. I think it helps to have, your complete. I'm trying to think who the D tackle next to him is, Harris. Like, having Miller, even in, where he's at his age, having him on the other side will help. But probably maybe a touch overrated to, normally rated. If the secondary is improved and Miller's back, I think he'll be just fine. I think he's very good.
Okay. Because he had 12 sacks his rookie year. Bunch of quarterback hits. He was a menace. Obviously, he got hurt early in the season, 2019. And then last year, I guess he had a bounce back year. Still 7.5 sacks. Not as many quarterback hits or pressures as he did when he was a rookie. So maybe it was just he needed another year from that injury. Maybe he needed a running mate, or he just didn't need needed some mechanism not to be triple teamed every time he was pass rushing. But I saw somewhere where he was in the top 100 players ranked in the NFL, and I did a double take. I was like, huh? Like, and then like the guys he was listed around, I was like, are you serious? Like, there's no way. But anyway,
we just didn't watch that defense perform very well. And
I didn't watch
Hamler was a hamstring.
I did not watch.
I think that's where I'm at too. Brian in the chat says Hamler had a hamstring injury. It looks like he played 12 games, but a couple of those were very little usage. Where maybe he was still.
You're not thinking of Hamilton?
Hamler. I'm looking at his game logs.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah, KJ Hamler. There he is. Oh, I see. He's listed with the running backs for some stupid reason. Oh, that's weird.
He did have like. It looks like he had 9 rushes for 40 yards.
9 rushing attempts. Okay, he had enough that they bumped. Okay, I see what's going on here.
Honestly, he had 30 catches, and he lines up in the slot most likely. I think he's a wide receiver, guys. I don't know what we're doing here. Anyway,
he is a wide receiver.
Outside of that, any big changes that you wanted to touch on? I think
4th most targets. Okay.
The Surtain Defensive Rookie of the Year steam got out of control instantly after the pick six. It's like, hey, guys, he's playing the Vikings. Chill out. He's probably going to be good. It's hard for a defensive secondary piece to be good immediately, but on a team with decent safeties and some other pieces, that I think he could probably be good, especially with bringing Fuller. I like Fuller a lot. I think I like that more than Surtain, but Surtain is going to give you many more years, hopefully. The rest of the draft, I didn't have a ton of opinions on. They went running back second, and then like a D3 center eventually, although it was Wisconsin Whitewater, who was a powerhouse.
So the entirety of this secondary is excellent now and deep. This is one of those where you know it on paper and you can say it with confidence, because even if they have a couple guys go down, the guys you're slotting in to take over are going to be very, very good. Surtain, I think, will be an ideal guy to spell some of your more experienced starters. I like Fuller. I like Callahan a lot. And I like Darby. Ronald Darby is a fine player as well. So this is a really good secondary.
If Surtain is your nickel guy, that's great. Like, you have a good young press corner.
Great.
That's for sure great.
The problem is you're probably going to be a little bit of a tight end funnel. Your linebackers are so committed to the pass rush, and your off-ball linebackers are meh. I don't, Alexander Johnson, Josie Jewell, like, those guys are going to get passed on a little bit. Safeties, Kareem Jackson is good, but not good enough to, be able to make up the gap there.
Are we doing a DFS play here?
Evan
Ingram, week one.
Is that
streaming?
Who it is? Oh yeah, they're playing yes.
Oh, we haven't done a stupid DFS play yet. Yeah, our DFS play lock.
That's going to be a good one. I don't know that anyone realizes that this is going to be a tight end funnel, but the wide receiver coverage is going to be so good every time. The wide receivers are not going to have any separation against this unit. Running backs are not going to have an especially easy time going up against a relatively stout interior DL here. This is going to be a good defense at the end of the day. You're going to be able to attack them with the tight ends, but that's about it. Ultimately, I think they have a lot of things going for them in terms of depth, in terms of talent, and I would guess that this is a top 10 defense ultimately. You agree?
Yeah, for sure.
They're being priced like that though. Like, these are some low totals. They're expected to be good, and they're coached by Vic Fangio, who is obviously a defensive guy. Yeah, Ed Donatel still the coordinator. However, on the offensive side of the ball, they have turned over the keys to Pat Shurmur. We also do not know what the deal is with Teddy Bridgewater, Drew Lock situation. Do you have? I guess here's two questions for you. Do you have a lean either way with what they're going to do, and do you think it matters in terms of handicapping this team and their potential for this season?
Yeah, I think Teddy, with good protection and good receivers around him, is probably the better option. But again, what are you looking for from this team? Like, do you thinking, hey, we have Teddy Bridgewater now and the defense is locked down, we're a playoff team? Because if you don't, if you think your ceiling is like 9 wins, 10 wins maybe, it's like, oh, well, we didn't make the playoffs, but we had a winning season and the fans are kind of happy, but now we have a crappy draft pick and we're right back where we started. Like, the Drew Lock experience, there's cases to be made for, it's like, start him. If he absolutely stinks, then and you can get rid of him and move on with your life, and you might have a better draft pick to go with it. So I would start Teddy just because I just can't stomach watching Drew Lock play anymore. But it's, again, Teddy Bridgewater's probably not a long-term answer either. So it'll be interesting to see where this heads. And then my question back to you, Drew, I'm going to fire it right back to you. You were pretty harsh on COVID holdouts Not because they held out, like you were fine with people doing what they thought they were right, but you're harsh on them as far as what you think you'll get for performance.
I have low expectations. Yeah.
Yeah, low expectation. I'm going to say harsh. I'm going to say you were hateful. I'm going to really ramp it up.
Okay.
No, but just going back to that, like, what about somebody who essentially the same kind of thing, like Von Miller? He wasn't a holdup, but he missed the entire season. I mean, do you have any empirical? Put you on the spot. Just, like, bring up the studies that show me, but like, do you have any good comps to that where it's like, hey, this guy missed a whole year, and then he comes back and he's not, especially I believe it was an Achilles. Like, are you? Can you bounce back from that? We saw Durant, like, an Achilles injury is a nasty injury, especially for somebody who's trying to get off the edge, up on your toes like that. I don't know. I'm a little nervous about that.
If you're asking me what is my Vaughn is washed probability, it's 30-ish. Between 30 and 40 is what I would have said. His value by my numbers peaked in the 2015 season. It was almost as good in the 2016 season, and then it has slowly waned through 2019. And a year off at age 31 does not help. He is now entering his year 32 season. For him to be anywhere close to as effective as he was in his late 20s, I think is asking a lot. He needs to be a complementary piece. He needs to be able to do, if the less you have to ask of him, the better, honestly. And I would not be surprised if he ends up splitting snaps with a guy like Jonathan Cooper potentially. You get a young guy in there for some snaps, and you put him in on obvious passing downs and make him go disrupt. He does the Dwight Freeney deal, late in his career, where you're like, no, he's obviously a super disruptive pass rusher. You just have to deploy him effectively, right? Because there's that trade-off
all the time.
Yeah, there's the trade-off where the older you get as an edge, the athleticism declines, your speed, your power. Ability to get past the blocker diminishes, and you have to lean more on your craftiness, what you're doing in terms of misdirection and moves. And Miller has that stuff, so I think he can still be effective, but I don't expect much from him in terms of his year 32 season. Like any market that has sack odds for sack price for him, I would look for the under. I don't think he's not my sack number for him, probably 6 realistically. I think is a fair price.
To see that I've seen the individual player prop market has exploded in like the last 2 weeks as far as the
it's really insane.
I'll have to go hunt that down. I kind of want you to answer the quarterback question too, and maybe do it twice. Like, what's the right move? And then what's the right move for like the long term? What would you do and why would you do it? Maybe that's a better way to phrase it.
By the way, give me Von Miller on PointsBet. Give me Von Miller under 9.5 sacks at plus 105. That's
man, that's pretty high.
That is a beauty. Oh my goodness gracious, that's high. All right. The quarterback question for Denver is whatever. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about for this team at this point. You have a team that is top 10 in the NFL in talent at every important area, except for quarterback, where you are bottom 5. And one of two, I thought you framed it well, which is that you just go with Locke this year and you close your eyes. And you say, either we get the Josh Allen explosion where his completion percentage over expected is league average, and then all of a sudden he is like a very capable passer, right? And all of a sudden, you have the weapons in Judy and Hamler and Sutton, although I'm not expecting Sutton to be effective really until later in the season, if at all this season, just because of the injury. But Fant is good. Like if Locke does the Josh Allen impression, you're set. Keep run out the extent of what he will give you as a quarterback, and either extend him or don't. Probably not going to matter. But the Teddy Bridgewater experiment to me is a mistake, because that does put you squarely in purgatory.
I think it makes you a better team.
Playoff game. You are not winning a playoff game. You are going to the playoffs probably. You're getting the 7th seed probably. or you're going to be eliminated in January, right? One of those, you're on the bubble, really.
Yeah, you're either last year's Dolphins or your last year's. Who was the last team in? The Colts.
Colts, yeah.
Yeah, you're one of those two teams, and like it's exciting to have a playoff game. It will not be.
It will be on the road,
in Vesco Field in Mile High or whatever.
No, you're going to. Who's the 2 seed going to be? You're probably going to Buffalo.
Oh,
maybe you're going to Kansas City.
It's closer, I guess, for travel wise, as far as getting home after the beatdown. But yeah, you're probably you're traveling to another cold weather city to get the shit kicked out of you, likely. And yeah, I think it sucks because like we do this a lot where we play GM and say what's better for the team long term, and like we're probably right that Teddy's worse long term. I still want Teddy to start.
No,
I still want to see him play. I can't stomach Lock.
Andy, you start Drew Lock all 17 games, assuming he's healthy. And you said it already. He's either good enough that he either does the Josh Allen, and now maybe you could win because he's got a tool. He's got the tools. He's got an arm. Like if he can rein in, if he's even remotely accurate, which is something I would not have entertained as possible until Josh Allen proved it. Right? Would not have entertained it. If we were having this conversation last year, I would say, nope, the data is what it is. Lock is done. Get rid of the bum. Right? But the Josh Allen resurrection has forced me to revise what I think is possible. And I think it's possible. Yes. Hang on. I'm not saying it's happening.
It's possible.
Okay. You see if it happens. If it does not happen, you sign Aaron Rodgers. That's all there is to it. Aaron Rodgers wants to get out of Green Bay. That has been the entirety of this offseason was Rodgers maneuvering his way to have his one foot out the door. That's your fallback, and it's not that bad of a fallback.
No, I think no matter what happens, like that's hopefully the move. You should be once the big boards start to come out late in the season for the draft. You start texting Aaron, asking him, "Who do you think we should pick?" Like
exactly.
Like who do you want? Obviously, you don't need a receiver. You're set at receiver. Like, hey, would you like a new offensive tackle? You want another tight end? What would you like?
I don't know if you need very many good offensive
linemen. You don't need
Munchak. Munchak is amazing coaching up these guys. You're going to have great pass pro.
You don't need much on that offensive side outside of a quarterback. It is quite startling.
Okay.
How well that marriage would work.
If Locke fails and you're picking in the top 5 of the draft, you get a pass rusher to take the crown from Von Miller as sort of the guy, and you're off and running. Honestly, like that. This is
Ryan brings up an interesting point. They could get Jimmy G yet this year.
I'd rather suck this year and get Rodgers, bring Rodgers in, honestly, and get a good draft pick. I don't want that. You have Teddy Bridgewater. The difference between Teddy Bridgewater and Jimmy G over the balance of a season, maybe you cover one more game. You're not winning or losing them anymore.
Yeah, it's probably a little better. It's a bigger arm, but yeah, it's not. I'm not a big Jimmy G excitement guy. Rodgers, though, boy, that's fun. That would be boy. Of all the teams of the 50 whatever Super Bowls now that have won multiples, like talk about the highest average age, like 75-year-old Peyton Manning, 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers, and John Elway at the absolute end of his 30s. Career. It's just weird. Like that's how they do it up there. It's that fresh air. Honestly, I love going up to Denver. I have family there.
It's the
I enjoy going there all the time.
Farther. Yeah.
Oh my God, Rodgers Hail Marys from his own end zone, like hyperbole, but fun to think about. So, oh yeah, that is something I guess we'll maybe not find out soon. It says Sean Payton has decided he's going to make a decision here after this game or before the season starts. He said, but I don't know if we're gonna get. I don't know if we're gonna get a decision on this Teddy and Locke thing anytime soon. So. Interesting, but yeah, I don't know what happens.
Elway won Super Bowls in his year 37 and 38 seasons. Right. It's insane.
It would be three quarterbacks to retire after winning a Broncos Super Bowl.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, Stevie Johnson's about to get beat. You see that? I guess Alex Poprin wasn't throwing this match.
The
What was
Stevie
that
Johnson
wild
steam.
steam about? That Stevie Johnson steam. We'll never figure it out.
We'll never know.
We'll never know. All right.
Schedule?
Well, let's look at the schedule for the Broncos. Is it fair to be bullish on these guys? Or is it stupid?
Again, if they start Teddy or if Locke has had some turnaround, and the Josh Allen thing is like, yes, we have to give it a non-zero chance, but man, I don't know if we'll ever see a turnaround like that again. Like just the perfect combination of the player being willing to be coached, the right coaches at the right time, and already having the huge physical gifts. He has a massive arm. Like the improvement we saw was like nothing else I've ever seen, maybe ever again. So my optimism for Drew Lock improving isn't there. But if it happens, like this is a team that has a hefty stable of wide receivers, a decent tight end, like you said, a good offensive line, and a defense that could come around because of a decent coverage unit and hopefully what we think is good defensive ends. And the schedule's not that bad. Yeah, at Cleveland, at KC,
they're favored in 9 games.
The rest of it is very winnable, especially late. If the Raiders stink like we kind of implied they would, that is a game you're a dog at, or you could go indoors late in the season and win.
Coin flip.
The Chargers, I think that's a tough one, but it's a coin flip. The Kansas City game is the perfect spot for a Kansas City game. If Kansas City, what if, I think we're going to be a little Debbie Downer on them, but what if they're just really good again? And you could be in the Brown spot where you're playing Chad Henne in week 18 to lock up a 5 seed or something along those lines if things hash out right. But yeah, you have to win the coin flips. Obviously, the 2 early games, Giants and Jags on the road, that sucks, especially with the East Coast game early in Jacksonville in the summer, second leg of a back-to-back. So although the teams aren't highly power rated, kind of a rough 1-2 punch to start out with. You get respite with the Jets at home facing a rookie quarterback up in Denver early in the season. The Baltimore one, they're coming off a back-to-back that's less coin flippy, but it still is, I guess. Pittsburgh is this is another one where they have 4 of these East Coast games, early time slot. Pittsburgh's a toughie. Vegas at home. Cleveland's probably a loss on Thursday Night Football. Man, that's not a good spot for what we think is. Maybe we haven't mentioned him a lot. Good defensive coach, but probably a very below average overall head coach. A overall below average head coach on Thursday Night Football is not what you want. Cleveland under 7 is maybe a play there if that offense is looking good. The Washington is a double advantage spot off Thursday night. Washington's getting kind of dicked with some of those people coming off Thursday night.
The Washington we talked about that on the Washington pod. They have a sneaky shit schedule. Yeah, it is like sneaky shitty. Yeah.
Dallas, maybe that's a little too many points for Dallas too.
Yeah, it is.
Especially that's a bad matchup if your strength is your passing game. You face a good secondary.
Yep, especially the depth. The depth. If you as Dallas are thinking you're going to pass all over these guys because you have 3 or 4 ways to attack them through the air, well, they have 3 or 4 ways to defend you.
Yeah,
effectively.
So looking at a way to bet this team is if they were okay through the first half of the season, you look at that bye, and they have the Chargers, Detroit, and Cincy at home with the KC home game very late, possibly an ugly game that doesn't matter to KC. Yeah, you can't assume that, but that's a non-zero chance. The KC game at KC is maybe just a loss because that's a tough spot with KC off their bye. Andy Reid off their bye and on the road.
Not
great. But the rest of those games, there are 7 games and 6 are pretty winnable if you're playing well. So that might be a spot off the Philly game. Off the bye, maybe teams you're kind of forgetting about the team off the bye. Some other team is in vogue that week during week 11, and we take a little Denver to make the playoffs, seeing what the price is.
I like that. You know what this schedule screams at me as I look at it? High variance wins total. This is a high variance win total team. Look at all those coin flips. The whole fucking thing is coin flips. They have
5 wins or 5 losses.
They have 2 games. They have 2 games that I have high confidence they will lose, and they have 2 games that I have high confidence they will win.
And the rest,
the other 13 could go either way. That's insane, man. This is an alt-win total team, whatever way you feel about them. If you think Drew Lock is garbage and that they're going to sink with Drew Lock at quarterback and Teddy Bridgewater is no better, go fire all your bullets on the alt-under. And if you think that Drew Lock could take a meaningful step forward, potentially without getting hurt in the first week of the season, potentially with a whole offseason working with Josh Allen and Jordan Palmer, and that his accuracy is going to be fixed, that he's going to lead this team to a playoff spot, then bet the alt over.
Yeah, maybe just one more reason that if you do think that Drew Lock is bad, he might be who you start, because with all these coin flips, you could have a top 6, 7 pick rather than almost making the playoffs and just kind of being in a weird purgatory for one more year. Nobody likes that. The fans don't want that. It's hard to convince a team that they should tank, or a front office, especially Elway, who doesn't seem to get it. But like if you were playing with bad quarterback play, this is a team that loses 2/3 of those coin flips and wins like 6 games,
absolutely,
maybe 5. So yeah, kind of an alt total team. And yeah, let's take a look at the odds here, Matt.
Ooh, those are not big enough numbers.
What's going on here? I think Dan made these for you on vacation. Hopefully he's watching so he can feel some shame. We should congratulate producer Dan on his engagement.
He was
on vacation. He was distracted because he had to ask the woman he loved the biggest question in life, and he was probably nervous. And you know what? She said yes. So good for producer Dan, although bad on producer Dan because they are not 17-1 to win the Super Bowl.
What are they?
Probably a different team. I bet them at 75-1 when I thought they were getting Deshaun Watson, like in February.
Is that too late for that to go through? We're not going to see that.
I don't know what to.
Do you give up assets to bring in Watson at this point, or just hold your breath for Rodgers?
Again, with Elway, who knows, man? But yeah, it is an interesting question because now the legal people are saying like, hey, guess what? He could play all year because this is going to take too long. But then you're kind of mortgaging next year if these legal issues don't go away. So it's a higher risk, but it's sooner.
I'm seeing 35.
Like it's now.
I'm seeing 35-1 for the Broncos Super Bowl right now.
I was going to say 40-ish, yeah. So 35-40, probably right around there. 15-1 to win the AFC West plus 550. These have all of these, again, these kind of got knocked with all the rumors of first Watson and then Rodgers. I'll have to thank he was one-time guest, Cleve TA. He made the case for why not Watson to Denver.
Why not?
And that's where I got 75-1. I have also 20-1 to win the AFC West. Some soft early numbers that you couldn't get a lot down on, but they're still numbers I'm pretty proud of because they are long gone. Even if we are going to start Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback, those aren't happening. To win the
AFC, that's a better price than they're currently to win the AFC, which is insane.
Yeah.
No, that's a great job by you.
To make the playoffs, is that kind of an alt total that you could probably just get a better price on, like over 10.5?
Yes, you probably can.
Because what do you think it takes to make the playoffs in the AFC?
10 wins.
It's 10 wins. 10 or 11.
10 wins at least. Probably 11. Probably 11. Yeah. Do you want to know what the alt win over is, out of curiosity? I mean, the regular, the standard VIG total over 8.5 is minus 130. Under 8.5 is plus 104. Let's see what the alts are. Pulling them up right now. Is that under exotics, or where would that be? What would that be? Futures? NFL? No, I'm
somewhere like that.
Player futures?
Yeah, the alt totals have been tougher to find. Thanks
I found
to
some.
I wonder if kidnapping in Costa Rica.
Jesus Christ.
Well, I mean, RIP, and
One
I feel bad
kidnapping went
for
wrong.
everybody. Yeah, I feel bad for everybody involved, but like the downfall of that sports book and the turn into bet any sports and the mess that's become with the Tangiers, fucking, it's awful. I could sit here and bitch about sports books all day, but yeah, all totals look for them. While you're looking, what do you think? It's just the regular total, like it's just a stay away because of the high variance. I think the answer's
Oh,
yes, right?
100%. Yeah, you're only betting this alt. I can get over 9.5 for plus 145. That is a better bet than to make the playoffs. Yes, at plus 145. I don't even need to do the math.
Yeah, because 10 does not guarantee it.
No, 10 does not guarantee it. It's going to be very, very competitive for those playoff spots.
There have been 11-win teams that didn't make the playoffs when we had 6 spots. The Matt Castle Patriots didn't.
One team out of the following will win 10 games and not make the playoffs, is my prediction. Pittsburgh, Denver, Chargers, Patriots, Dolphins. One of those 5 teams will miss the playoffs as a double-digit win team.
I go with that. You see South Dakota won anyway.
They did, even without Gavin.
Their second pitcher's apparently pretty good, too. 6 innings to shut up
They're
all.
plus 180, dude.
I know. They're just not getting respect. You know why they're not getting respect?
Because they're from South Dakota.
Yeah, I guess they're from South Dakota. Maybe it's a vax thing. Like, their governor's been pretty outspoken. Maybe they're worried all these coaches have COVID or something.
Wow.
I don't know. Sioux Falls
South
is pretty
Dakota,
cosmopolitan.
Little League World Series, man. They're making me whole from a very rough weekend. All right. Well, I think if I had to play an alt, I'm playing over 9.5 on these Broncos before I'm playing under 7.5. The under 7.5, if you wanted to know for pricing, is plus 215. Obviously, it's a better price, but and one of these two is cashing. They're not finishing with 8 or 9 wins. No way.
We'll have to clip this.
8 or 9 wins? Nah, not happening. Not happening. At least not to the certainty implied by this market pricing.
We'll clip this when they lose their 10th game. We'll play it again.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Cool. Well, thanks. Yeah, thanks for hanging with us, guys. I won my PrizePicks.
Nice.
Yeah, Lawrence. It was Lawrence and Ty Montgomery receiving yards over.
Oh, good.
Lawrence
do you have any thoughts on second half line here?
What do we got?
It's 20 points so far. 20 points so far scored in this game. They are exactly on pace for this over. Depending on what price you got, I guess.
Yeah.
Some people maybe had a 40. Some people got 39.5. I saw this moving today while I was
so
on the
the thing is, I'm probably a little sketched out about any unders here. I'm not saying I'm betting the over, but the fact is you're going to see more Taysom. You're going to see maybe some more Trevor Lawrence and probably mostly Minshew. So you're getting starting level quarterbacks against backup defenses. So yeah, that's kind of rough looking at an under, even though it is a big total. And then you have Brian. Brian brings up Charlie Hoffman top 20 choke. Yeah, that was rough. Thank God Keegan and Connors kept shit together. So Josh Wilkin in the chat, thank you. Jags minus 1.5, over under 17.5.
Yeah, I'm seeing 1.5 minus 110 for the Jags. I don't hate that, but
I don't know. Taysom's not bad, especially Taysom against backups.
Taysom's not bad, but the depth for the Saints defensively is also quite poor.
Yeah, I might just yellow the stupid public side and go over.
17.
I might have this in the sweetheart teaser.
You can't put 17.5. You can't fire on a 17.5.
No, I'm going to look for an alt. I'm going to look for like 19.5.
There you go. That's fine. That's doable.
Again, yeah, where do you find those anymore?
Scoring if. Yeah, no. That's over. If you can get 19.5 for a better price, you're in great shape.
Yeah, I do miss the dimes of 5, where there was always the pull down menu. There was like 6 options. They had different options on second half team totals.
Yep, they'll buy. You can buy or sell anything, anywhere there. And even if you were killing them by doing that, they would still let you do it.
If you're a sportsbook manager listening, and actually I'm going to talk to somebody over at DraftKings about this. Also, you know what the world needs? First half teasers. People will get killed on those. Like those can't. Like you get 3 points instead of 6. People will get murdered on those. They don't cross enough stuff. They never will. There's no such thing as key first half numbers really outside of maybe a 3. So first half teasers. Let's bring that in if you're listening.
What do you think of? Speaking of week 1, have you played any, or do you have any appetite to get involved in Broncos at the Giants?
The Giants aren't playing anyone, they've said. Like,
no, for week 1.
Oh, I thought you meant the next preseason game. Just probably some Evan Ingram props. We've been over this. Like, he's our guy. Lock.
Evan Ingram.
Evan Ingram props.
I really hope that game goes over. That would be so fucking good for future stuff. You know how there's fluky random shit that happens in week 1? If that game flies over, that's going to set up like 10 bets over the next couple weeks. It's going to be so good.
Week 2 overreaction day.
Yeah, exactly. There's going to be some great shit like that if that happens. God, look at this Broncos starting schedule, man. Giants, Jags, Jets. What did they do to deserve this? Unbelievable. All right, well, let's put a bow on this episode and get our let's get in regular season form and do some Chiefs Chargers on Wednesday. Sound good?
Yeah. This is going to be a good one. This is going to be a lot of fun. I'm pretty psyched for the Chargers season, and we have a lot of Devil's Avocado to be speaking about for the team down there in the middle of, where did Trump say they were? Was it Kansas? Because it's really in Missouri.
Yes.
Even though Kansas City is kind of in Kansas too.
It's in both, yeah.
Great barbecue though. Great barbecue. God, I need to get back there. Might have to go to a game sometime. Go visit Mr. Caleb. All right. See you guys. If you're in the YouTube, give me a thumbs up and let's hit the music.